Hi, if today was one of those long days when everything felt heavy, if the rush of the outside world still echoes inside you, know that now you can let it all go. Nothing needs to be fixed right now. Nothing needs your attention. Just rest. If that's what you're longing for, to leave the day behind, take a deep breath and sleep in peace. Then stay here with me. And if you can, please help me keep this cozy corner of rest going. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you think of someone who also needs better sleep, share it with love. Thank you for being here tonight. Now, let's surrender to calm. Lie down comfortably on your back. If you can, let your arms rest gently at your sides, palms facing up. Close your eyes slowly, with no rush. Feel the bed holding your body, as if it's quietly saying, you can rest now. Let's breathe together. Inhale slowly through your nose, cool, quiet air. Hold it just a moment. Then exhale softly through your mouth, as if you're sighing, letting the day drift away. 2 more times. Inhale at your own pace. Hold. Exhale, letting your shoulders melt deeper into the bed. Once more. Inhale, hold, exhale. Feeling your body begin to dissolve, as if it's being gently carried into the night. Now bring your awareness down to your feet. Feel them growing warm, heavy, relaxed, and let that feeling rise. Your legs soft and still, your hips and lower back completely released, your belly, your chest loosening, your arms and hands light, open, free, your neck, jaw, and face. Everything softens, everything quiets. Your body knows how to rest, and now it's ready. If sleep comes, let it take you. But if you're still here with me, then close your eyes a little more and let's begin tonight's story. Let's begin. Hey guys, tonight we travel far back in time, way before alarm clocks, espresso machines, and whatever dramas trending on your timeline. We're going to Egypt, but not just any Egypt. No pyramids, no mummies jumping out of sarcophagi. Tonight, you are Cleopatra, not the movie version with the perfect eyeliner and dramatic music, but the real girl, born with the Nile in her veins and history waiting quietly at her doorstep. You're still young, maybe 10, maybe 12. Definitely too young to be worrying about politics. And yet, well, here we are. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I love knowing you're out there, drifting off to sleep while traveling through history. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Are you in bed already, or pretending you're not watching YouTube at 3 a.m.? No judgment. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sky is still tinted with rose and gold, the kind of sunrise painters, centuries from now, will try and fail to capture. The Nile glows like a ribbon of molten light. Birds call out as they skim across the surface, wings brushing mist. Alexandria is waking up, and you are standing on the highest balcony of the palace, barefoot, a little cold, a little curious. You're small enough to be ignored by the guards, but smart enough to understand that from this high up, the world looks fragile. Like if you breathe too hard, it might shift. The breeze carries the smell of wet stone, palm leaves, and a hint of burned myrrh from morning rituals. Somewhere, someone is reciting prayers to Ra. Somewhere else, someone is already whispering secrets to a servant. But up here, It's just you and the river, and you love it, not because it's beautiful, though it is, but because it feels like it knows you. The Nile doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it just moves, steady and full of purpose, like it's been here forever and plans to be here forevermore, kind of like you. Honestly, historians still debate how much Cleopatra understood about her destiny as a child. Was she raised with a crown in mind, or did it fall into her lap like a well-placed coin in a fountain of ambition? What's certain is this: you were already watching, already learning, already preparing. You hear footsteps, soft ones. A servant comes to tell you breakfast is ready. But you stay a moment longer, because the sun is fully rising now, and the river is no longer gold, it's alive. And you're not just Cleopatra, you're the morning before she becomes legend. The room smells like crushed myrrh and something sweet lotus oil, maybe. The linens are damp with the last of the night's humidity, and someone has left a tray of almonds near the window. A fly circles it lazily, unaware of your gaze. You don't shoo it away. You're busy. You're tracing the wall carvings with your fingers. The room is carved with stories, battles, gods, the passage of stars. You can't read all of it yet, but you recognize the face of Isis in profile, arm outstretched, offering protection to the figure beneath her, who always looks suspiciously like you. Your bedroom isn't just a place to sleep. It's a temple, a fortress, and depending on the hour, a prison. Your sheets are imported, your cushions embroidered by hand, your sandals crafted by someone who probably cursed your name under their breath for days while stitching. Still, for all the gold and fine linen, the walls feel heavy sometimes. Today, though, they hum with something different. It's early still. Most of the palace staff are still rubbing sleep from their eyes, but your mind is racing. You've had a dream. You were standing on the prow of a ship, arms outstretched, wind tearing at your cloak, and the sea whispered your name over and over again. You don't know what it means, but you wake up feeling like someone has already written a prophecy and is waiting for you to find it. You shuffle toward the door, bare feet brushing across mosaic floors. As usual, the palace cats follow you at a slight distance, tails high, as if they're assigned to your detail. They probably are, honestly. No one's ruled out feline espionage. You open the door just enough to slip into the hallway. It's quiet, but not silent. Alexandria's always breathing. A soft breeze floats through the windows, thick with the scent of wet stone, figs, and horse sweat from the stables. Somewhere below, sandals slap against marble and someone sneezes, loudly enough to wake the gods. You make your way toward the study chamber, not your favorite room, but definitely the most interesting one. The guards let you pass with a nod. You're not supposed to be here yet, but rules bend easily when you walk like you know where you're going. Inside, the air is thick with ink and dust and that unmistakable smell of old things trying not to be forgotten. Scrolls lie stacked like loaves of bread, some tied with red thread, others bleeding parchment from the ends like wounded animals. The oil lamps flicker lazily, casting shadows that dance across maps and diagrams. Your tutor isn't here yet. Good. You slide onto the stone bench by the long table and pick up a scroll with a golden seal. It unrolls with a satisfying hiss. The language is Greek, but the hand is Egyptian. You're still learning to read quickly, but you catch the gist. It's about land plots and grain. Riveting, still. It's a puzzle, and you like puzzles. Halfway through the scroll, you find a note scribbled in the margin. It's not part of the record, it's personal. Someone warning someone else about taxes, about keeping quiet, about not letting the Queen Mother find out. You smile. Secrets are everywhere if you read between the lines. There's a sound behind you, a soft throat clear, and you don't even turn. It's Pomines, your tutor. You know him, by the way. His sandals slap the floor like he's always just barely keeping pace with himself. He groans when he sees you already deep in a scroll. You're going to ruin your eyesight, he mutters, as if you care. I don't need eyes, you reply. I have ears. Clever, he sighs, dropping another stack of scrolls on the table with the delicacy of a hippo, and arrogant. I'm a Ptolemy, you say, with a shrug. It's in the job description. He laughs, despite himself. It's the kind of laugh that sounds like it aches a little. He likes you. He shouldn't, but he does. You spend the next hour arguing about thallies and geometry. He insists everything comes from water. You ask, even this table? He glares at you. You grin. As the morning progresses, he quizzes you on the names of stars, the angles of pyramids, the list of gods in order of pettiness. It's all fun. Until he hands you the scroll about Pharaoh Ahmose and asks for a full recitation in Egyptian. Not Greek. Your brain fumbles, but your pride doesn't let you give up. You make it through, stuttering on only 2 verbs, and one very confusing. Determinative. He claps once, almost tolerable. You beam. Outside, the sun climbs higher. Birds call. The servants grow louder. Alexandria is awake now, but you've been awake since the Nile first yawned this morning. You're in motion before the world asks it of you. Fun fact, by the way, historians believe Cleopatra was the first of her line to speak fluent Egyptian. Your father barely tried. Your siblings, forget it. But you lean into it, because you know that power isn't just gold and soldiers. Sometimes it's pronunciation. You leave the study with scroll ink on your fingers and the beginnings of a headache. But it's a good kind of headache, the kind that comes from lifting something heavy and realizing you're strong enough. The hallway is no longer empty. Courtiers drift like perfume, too sweet, too slow. One of them bows, but it feels more like he's testing how low you'll make him go. You make him wait a beat longer than necessary, just because you can. You turn into the corridor that leads to your private garden. It's shaded, quiet, and most importantly, full of things that don't talk back. Papyrus plants rustle. A fountain murmurs something unintelligible. You sit beside it, dipping your fingers into the cool water. This is the only place where you can think clearly. No lessons, no servants, no whispers, just you and your own clever little mind. You pull a stone from your pocket, the banks of the Nile. You carry one every day, not for luck, but as a reminder. The river shaped this stone, bit by bit, silently. That's how you'll shape your world. And as you lie back against the stone bench, the shade cooling your cheeks, you begin to imagine what comes next. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. The throne, the decisions, the risks. You don't know how yet, but you'll get there. Maybe by being patient, maybe by being sharp, or maybe, just maybe, by learning to move like the river, quiet, powerful, and impossible to stop. It starts with sandals, not yours, his, who hear them before you see him. A shuffle, A click, a sort of deliberate laziness, the sound of someone who's not afraid to make others wait, because he never has to. You're in the garden again. It's later now, the sun lazing overhead like a bored cat, and the cicadas have started their daily gossip. You've taken to lounging under the fig tree with a scroll balanced on your knees, pretending to read but mostly just watching the sky flicker through the leaves. He doesn't knock. His back like he owns the place. He probably will one day. Your older brother, he's wearing a tunic that's far too fine for this heat, and his face is twisted into something that might be a smile or might be indigestion. You're still not sure. Reading again, he asks, as though that's a crime. You don't look up, pretending to. He snorts. Father says you read too much, that it makes girls nervous. You finally glance at him, and you make guards. Nervous, so I suppose we're even. He doesn't laugh, which is a shame. You were proud of that one. Instead, he circles you like a cat circling a sandal. He's older, taller, and wears the crown like it's a necklace made of thorns. Technically, you're not rivals yet, but technically, the Ptolemaic dynasty isn't a never-ending carousel of poison, betrayal, and side-eye. So, you know details. He picks a fig from the tree and bites into it too hard, like the fruit insulted his ancestors. Father says, I'm to attend the meeting with the Roman envoy. You shrugged. Hope you practiced your Latin. I'll have someone translate. You raise your eyebrows. Smart. That way, you can misunderstand with dignity that earns a twitch. Almost a smirk. You're both silent for a moment, and the cicadas fill in the gaps like they've been waiting there. Turn. He stares out at the water, and you follow his gaze. The Nile looks calm to calm. You know better. You think you'll rule someday, he asks. You pause. He says it like a joke, but it hangs in the air like a challenge. You consider your answer. The truthful one is yes. Obviously, the polite one is no. Of course not, brother dearest. What comes out is something in the middle. Only if the river wills it. He frowns at that. You smile. Historically speaking, this is where the family drama really kicks into gear. But you don't know that yet. Not really. You just know that every time your brother leaves a room, it feels like someone's blown out. A candle, and not in a good way. You spend the rest of the day pretending his visit didn't bother you. You play Senate with one of your handmaidens and lose on purpose. You rehearse your Egyptian with the palace scribe until he begs for mercy. You even help the cook taste us honey cakes just to make sure they're not poisoned. Obviously, but when night falls, you can't sleep. The ceiling above your bed is painted with constellations. Some are Greek, some Egyptian. All of them watch you like bored gods. You slip out of bed and pad down the hallway barefoot. The air is cooler now, filled with the smell of sandalwood and nighttime secrets. The guards don't stop you. You're becoming an expert at invisibility. You end up in the throne room. It's dark, lit only by moonlight pouring through high windows. The throne itself is enormous, carved, gilded, ridiculous. But tonight, it looks more like a question than an answer. You sit on the steps instead of the seat, just enough to feel the echo of power, but not enough to pretend it's yours. You're not queen, not yet, but something inside you whispers that maybe, just maybe, the gods aren't finished writing your name. You glance at the empty seat above you. You don't reach for it, not yet, but you let your fingers brush the step just once, just enough to say, I see you. You return to your room before sunrise. Sand stuck to your heel from where it's drifted in through the open windows. Your handmaiden stirs as you slip back into bed, but says nothing. You appreciate that about her. She knows silence is often the truest form of loyalty. You drift off eventually, curled under a sheet that smells of rosewater and sun. And in your dreams, you're not just standing by the Nile anymore. You're walking into it, not to drown, but to rise. Fun historical note. It's said that Cleopatra may have been courageant with her father, even before he died, training in plain sight, absorbing court politics like honey in a sponge. Historians still debate whether she was being groomed for the throne or whether she took it for herself. Frankly, we know which version you prefer. Either way, tomorrow you'll practice the art of diplomacy disguised as tea. But for now, you sleep. The tea is terrible. It's lukewarm, bitter, and smells faintly of old hay. But you drink it anyway because it's not about the taste, it's about the performance. By columns wrapped in creeping vines, a small fountain burbling in the background like it's trying to mind its own business. Across from you sits your father's newest advisor, a man with a beard so oiled and twisted it looks like he lost a fight with a pastry. He's sweating. You are not. He tries to mask it by dabbing his brow with a square of silk that's far too bright for a man his age. You resist the urge to ask if he borrowed it from a temple dancer. That's growth, young princess, he says with a smile that is all teeth and no sincerity. Your father wishes you would spend more time in the weaving room. You take a sip, swallow the bitterness. Does he also wish the Nile would run backward? The man blinks. You see, you continue, voice calm. Weaving is useful. But soa aprender, a calcular o impasto, sabra o trigo, antis q, algum sinador, romano finja, q esta nos, phasa nos, favor. He blinks again. You don't wait for him to catch up. There's a reason you agreed to this meeting. Word has it, he's been whispering in your father's ear about sending you off, perhaps in marriage, perhaps just away. He thinks you're ornamental. You intend to prove otherwise, so you let him talk. He lectures you about a woman's role and the value of humility. You nod politely, like someone listening to the rain on the roof, distant, rhythmic, entirely ignore. Instead, you focus on his ring. It's large, gold, set with an onyx scarab, gaudy but not worthless. His hand trembles slightly as he gestures. He notices your gaze and stops gesturing. Now he's self-conscious. Speech with a flourish involving grain storage and the value of silence. You smile like you've just been told a bedtime story. Thank you for your insights, you say, standing smoothly. Next time, let's have actual tea. You leave him blinking in the heat. Back in your private chamber, you flop unceremoniously onto the cushions. Your maid stifles a laugh. You wave at her without looking up. I deserve a statue, you mutter. You deserve a nap, she replies. Fair. You drift for a while, not asleep, not awake, just floating between thoughts. The palace hums around you, sandals slapping, birds crying, papyrus shuffling in some corner you'll never find. Eventually, your body insists on movement. You rise and head toward the stables. You haven't ridden in days. It's one of the few things that clears your mind. Wind in your hair, hooves against sand. the horizon rushing to meet you like an old friend. The stablemaster tries to fuss, but you silence him with a glance. You mount the chestnut mare with ease and ride through the outer gardens, past startled servants and sunbathing cats. Beyond the palace walls, the city opens like a flower. Alexandria smells like salt and stone, incense and old arguments. You know you shouldn't be out alone, but you're not truly alone. 3 guards follow discreetly, dressed as merchants, trying and failing not to look important. You pass the agora, bustling with voices. You catch fragments of conversations in Greek, Egyptian, Latin. Someone's lost a goat. Someone else is selling honeyed almonds. You resist the urge to stop and haggle. You're in queen mode today. No snacks. Instead, you head for the temple district. There, the air shifts, thicker, older. The temples cast long shadows, even in full daylight. You dismount near one of the smaller shrines, an old structure dedicated to a forgotten fertility god, whose name everyone mispronounces. The priestesses recognize you. They bow. You nod once, slipping inside without ceremony. The scent of burned myrrh wraps around you like a silk shawl. The stone walls absorb sound. Even your footsteps feel muffled, like the gods are shushing you inside. You sit before the altar and close your eyes, not to pray, to listen. This is a trick you learned from an older woman, a scribe who died 2 winters ago. She told you the gods don't care about words. They care about attention. Give them your stillness, she'd said. They'll fill the silence. You sit still, and you hear it. Not voices, not visions, but a slow rhythm, like the beat of something older than drums, deeper than chanting. Maybe it's your heartbeat. Maybe it's Egypt's. Maybe it's both. You stay until your legs fall asleep and the guards shift uncomfortably outside. On your way back, you pause by a fruit stall and buy 3 pomegranates. One for you, one for the scribe's daughter, one to leave by the river as a thank you offering. The vendor doesn't recognize you, and for a brief moment, you're just another girl with sand in her sandals and juice on her fingers. You like that. By the time you return to the palace, the advisor with the terrible tea is gone. You find a note waiting on your writing table. It's unsigned, but the handwriting is unmistakable. Your father, it reads, do not provoke the Senate. You stare at it for a long time. Then, carefully, you fold the note. Press it between the pages of a scroll about tax law and smile. Too late, you whisper. Fun fact: Cleopatra was known not only for her intelligence, but for her precision. In politics, she negotiated with generals, debated philosophers, and outmaneuvered politicians, sometimes over a glass of wine, sometimes over an army, but always on her own terms. You're not queen yet, but you're learning the rules, and more importantly, you're learning how to break them. The throne room smells like lemon oil and old ambition. You sit on the cold step again, not daring the actual seat yet. The stone beneath you is carved with symbols of lotus and papyrus, unity of Upper and Lower Egypt. But today, it just feels like a bench in a too big room, filled with too many echoes. You're supposed to be at a poetry lesson, but honestly, you're not in the mood to rhyme about the moon. The truth is, the palace feels different lately. Not dangerous, just tighter. Like someone's pulled the drawstring on a pouch, and all the air is being squeezed out slowly and politely, and absolutely on purpose. You hear it in the way the guards speak in shorter sentences. See it in the way the servants glance over their shoulders before bowing. And you definitely feel it when your brother enters a room and everyone suddenly remembers their shoes are fascinating. Something is coming. You don't know what yet, but you have a feeling it's wearing a toga. Rumor has it a Roman envoy arrived this morning. Tall, stern, probably smells like iron and impatience. You haven't seen him, but you heard the wheels of his chariot in the gravel outside the palace. You imagined him scowling the whole way from the harbor. Your father's been pacing ever since. He doesn't do that often. It makes his sandals squeak, which he hates. You know better than to ask what's going on directly. Instead, you wander down to the library annex, not the grand hall, too crowded, the little one behind the herb garden where no one bothers. To dust, you sit at a wooden table, dragging your fingers through a thin film of history. There's a scroll here you've read twice already, but today you need comfort. It's a treatise on the roles of female pharaohs. Hatshepsut gets a lot of love, but so does Sobekneferu. You reread the part where Sobenferu ruled without a male counterpart and nobody rioted. You like her. You'd name a cat after her. Outside, the sun shifts behind a column, casting a long shadow across the floor. You watch it crawl toward your toes and try not to take it as a metaphor. Suddenly, a voice breaks the quiet. I thought I'd find you here. You look up. It's Cassius, not the traitorous Roman one. Yours is an Alexandrian scribe with bad posture and good instincts. He's a year or two older than you, always smells faintly of ink, and has the annoying habit of being right when it matters. He drops a scroll onto the table with a dramatic sigh. Another speech, he says, from your father, written in Greek but with Egyptian flair, or, as I like to call it, a linguistic disaster. You unroll it. Read the opening, wince. Hail to the noble guests from distant yet familiar lands. You read aloud, then mutter, ugh. Sounds like someone trying too hard to sound friendly. Cassius shrugs. It's either that or greetings. Invaders, would you like some figs? You smile, despite yourself. He pulls up a stool beside you, leaning forward on his elbows. You think they're here to inspect the grain roots? No, you say instantly. Taxes? No. Marriage? You look at him. He raises both hands in mock surrender. Hey, don't glare at me like that. I'm just the messenger. But he's not. Not really. He's one of the few people who actually listens when you speak and responds without flinching. That's a rare gift in a palace where compliments are currency and honesty is well taxed. You sigh and roll the scroll back up there. Here to measure the throne. Measure it, not literally, politically. They're checking its weight, seeing how easily it tips. He goes quiet. You don't. Rome doesn't knock. It sends someone to smile, nod, count your soldiers, and tell you everything looks lovely right before it installs someone they can control. Not you, he says softly. You meet his gaze. No, you say not me. Later, you find yourself on the balcony of your father's audience chamber. You're not supposed to be here either, but that's never stopped you. Below, you can see the Roman envoy speaking to your father. He's tall, bald, and holds his hands behind his back like he's hiding a dagger or maybe a disappointing snack. His voice doesn't carry, but his posture does. Your father nods a lot. You bite your thumb. Then you notice something strange. Your brother is there too. standing just slightly behind the envoy, smiling. You don't like that. You don't like that at all. That night, you sit by your window and watch the moon rise over Alexandria. It's almost full, pale and enormous, hovering like a lantern over the lighthouse. The water glitters beneath it like glass shards pretending to be stars. A breeze moves through your room, rustling your scrolls and the ends of your tunic. You shiver. You remember a story your nurse once told you about a queen who ruled with only silence and smoke, who never raised her voice but always got what she wanted. You didn't believe it then, but now you wonder if that was your first lesson in diplomacy. Historiadores, anda discutim, say Cleopatra. Participu dos, cancelos politicos.com, su paedesd, sido, ouc, aprendu, tudo, por observacao, necessit, mas, se, depender, da, forma, como voca, exerga, uma, conversa, por, entre columnas, cortinas, ninguem, praces, ensinar. You sleep that night with one eye open, not from fear, from strategy, because while others are watching the Romans, you're watching who's standing beside them. There's sand in your sandals. Again, you kick them off with a sigh, watching the grains scatter across the polished floor of your chamber like disobedient thoughts. It's not the worst thing stuck to you today. That honor goes to betrayal, soft, quiet, the kind that doesn't announce itself until it's already seated beside you at dinner. This morning, you were summoned, not by your father, by your brother. That alone set off every warning bell in your spine. He wanted to speak in the smaller garden, the one with the olive trees that drop fruit like little warnings from the gods. He smiled too, much, offered you pomegranate seeds from a silver bowl. You didn't eat any, not because you thought they were poisoned. Okay, maybe a little because of that, but mostly because you didn't want to owe him anything, not even a bite. I heard father is unwell, he began, as if it were idle gossip and not a declaration of succession. You shrugged. He gets that way when he skips his afternoon figs. He didn't laugh, he just tilted his head. We should prepare for figs, for what comes next. You turned to look at him then, really looked. He's not older by much, but the crown has already started to warp him, tighten the corners of his mouth, sharpen his smiles into things with teeth. Father still wears the crown, you said. For now. That was when the seed of exile first sprouted in your chest. You didn't know what kind of tree it would grow into yet, but it would have thorns. You left the garden early, your sandals crunching on loose gravel with a rhythm that felt a lot like footsteps following you back in your chamber. You sit at your writing desk. A papyrus scroll lies open, half filled with notes on trade routes and tax records. You were mid-calculation when the world started tilting. Now, numbers blur. You pick up your stylus, begin again, write the word Alexandria. Then, underneath, mu trano noo dido o tomato. A servant knocks. You hide the scroll before answering. Your father wishes to see you, she says. The words land like falling stones. You find him in his private quarters, propped up by cushions and age. His skin looks thinner, like parchment stretched too tight, and his eyes flicker between lucidity and somewhere far beyond the palace walls. My clever daughter, he says, his voice low but warm. You sit beside him, resisting the urge to smooth the lines from his brow. He looks so much smaller here. Less king, more man. Cleopatra, he whispers. Listen carefully. And so you do. He speaks of Rome, of debts, of danger, of senators with greedy hands and empty promises. He warns you of your brother, of whispers in the marble halls, of shadows growing bolder. Then he says the thing that carves itself into your bones: survive them all. You nod, because the only other option is breaking. He gives you a ring, simple, gold, warm from his palm. Show this if you must flee, he says. It will open doors that are otherwise locked. You leave with the weight of the world, your pocket. That night, you can't sleep, so you climb to the roof from here. Alexandria stretches out in every direction. The lighthouse blinks slowly in the distance. The sea whispers secrets to the sand. And the stars, they don't twinkle. They burn, steady, cold. A reminder that the universe doesn't care what happens to queens or exiles. You lie back against the cool stone, and then you hear it. A commotion, shouting, boots, too many. You sit up. Someone is running toward the royal wing, toward your room. You don't wait. You grab a cloak, the ring, a pouch with coins, and you run through servant corridors, down narrow stairs, past confused cats and wide-eyed guards, too young to know who they should be stopping. You reach the harbor before your breath does. There's a merchant ship leaving for Thebes. You flash the ring. The captain looks at it, then at you, and nods once. No questions. The boat smells like fish and destiny as it pulls away from the dock. You look back at Alexandria. The palace windows glow like watchful eyes. Somewhere in there, your brother thinks you're cornered, that you'll break, but you're already gone and in the dark. With the wind pulling at your hood and the water slapping against the hull, you whisper, I will return. Fun historical note. Cleopatra was exiled from Alexandria by her own brother, Ptolemy XIII. After tensions over their co-rule escalated, she didn't sulk, she didn't surrender. She left and plotted her way back with legendary precision. Historiadors enda discutum, se ella planeava, J. desdo inicio, buscar apoyo romano. Mas, uma, coisa, us, certa, ella nuncative, intenco de desaparecer, and neither do you. The desert, contrary to what most people think, is not quiet. It hisses, it hums, it crackles beneath your feet like old scrolls being unrolled by invisible hands. Every gust of wind carries with ella o som de tempos, mutomes, antigos, du voca, voces sem lingua, promesses, phytos, pedra, e area. You travel mostly at night. The heat during the day is absurd, unapologetic. The sun doesn't shine. It interrogates, so you learn to rest in shade that barely counts as shade. Wrapped in linen, soaked in water that tastes vaguely of camel and destiny. You are not alone. Your loyal guards, few in number, quiet in spirit, move like shadows beside you. They don't speak unless necessary, which you appreciate. Talk is cheap. Silence, though, that's where power begins. You eat flatbread and figs. You drink cautiously. You listen always. Every evening, someone lights a small fire, and every evening you stare into it as if the flames might cough up an answer. So far, they haven't, just smoke, which, to be fair, is on brand for prophecy. The plan is simple. Reach the outer provinces, regroup, build support, return to Alexandria, not as a fugitive, but as a force. But simple doesn't mean easy. One night, you find yourself sitting on a rock that might once have been part of a temple. No one remembers which god. That feels oddly appropriate. You think about your childhood, the smell of papyrus ink, the cool floor of the library annex, the way your brother used to flick wine at you during meals and call it diplomacy, and now he sits on your throne. You press your palm against the ring your father gave you. It's warm, or maybe your hands are hard to tell, but either way, it reminds you that escape was never the end. Only the pause in the distance. Torchlight glimmers. At first, it's just a flicker. Then more. Then voices. Your guards tense, but you stand. Let them come, you say. Turns out, it's not an ambush. It's an emissary. He arrives, dusty and wide-eyed, wrapped in Roman-style robes, cut too short for the desert. He looks like someone who's read about sand, but never met it personally. I come from Julius Caesar, he says, breathless, with an offer. You blink. Of course you do. The emissary tells a short, strange tale of how Caesar has arrived in Alexandria, summoned by the turmoil of the Egyptian court, of how your brother miscalculated, treating Caesar like just another pawn, not the player. And now, Caesar wants to meet you. Your guards are skeptical. You are intrigued because Caesar is no ordinary Roman. He's a walking contradiction, general and poet, ruthless and charming, ambitious and surprisingly polite about it. Historiadors and discutum say Cleopatra realmente chegou, 8L escondida, tapit, ou dentro, de seco, de linho, oq, se sabe, oq, ella, antru, na presenca, de dos, homens mais poderosos, do mundo como, uma unica arma, ella mesma. And now, you have your invitation. You take a breath, say yes. The journey back to Alexandria is fast and quiet. You're smuggled in at night, hidden among grain sacks and foreign spices. The smell is awful. The risk is worse. But when you step onto marble again, when you feel the cool stone beneath your bare feet, something inside you tightens like a drawn bow. You are not afraid. Not of your brother. Not of Rome. Not of the crown. You are Cleopatra. And you're done waiting. The palace looks different under moonlight, smaller, but your stride is steady as you're led through narrow corridors, past guards who pretend not to see you, through a side door that opens into the private chambers of Julius Caesar. He's not what you expect. Older, yes, but sharp. His eyes miss nothing. He does not rise when you enter. He lets you come to him. A test. You pass it by taking your time. You don't bow. You simply say, "You summoned me." He smiles. Technically, he says, "You summoned yourself." You smile back. Fair enough. He offers wine. You decline. He raises an eyebrow. You raise both. A brief silence follows, rich with evaluation. Two predators sniffing each other out. And then he nods, just once. "I've read about you," he says. "I prefer first-hand accounts. I prefer unpredictable allies. Then you'll enjoy me immensely." He laughs, just once. But it's enough. You speak for hours. Of Egypt, of Rome, of trade and taxes, and truth and lies. You let your mind unfurl like a scroll, and he listens. Not just politely, intently, like someone who understands the value of intelligence, disguised as grace. By the time the sun threatens the horizon, a deal has been made. He will support your return to power, and in return, you'll ensure Egypt remembers Rome's friendship, not servitude. Friendship. It's a fine word, one that tastes better than the wine you are fused. You leave before dawn, and as you walk back to the quiet room, prepared for your secret return, you pass a mirror. You stop, look at yourself. Your hair is dusty, your eyes shadowed, your feet sore, but your posture unyielding. There's no crown on your head, not yet, but there might as well be, because tonight, for the first time in days, you dream of marble and gold, not as distant prizes, but as things within reach. The throne room looks different this time. It's the same polished floor, the same pillars painted in royal blues and ochres, the same dais carved with lotus and lion heads. But now you're walking toward it, not sneaking around its edges, and you're not alone. Caesar stands at your side, a Roman storm wrapped in a toga. Behind him, his soldiers wait with the casual stillness of people who've seen too many wars to be impressed by ceremony. Your steps echo beside theirs, softer but no less resolute. Your brother is already there. He sits on the throne like a child playing king, too small for the seat, too loud for the room. He tries to look calm, but you see the sweat on his brow, the way his fingers twitch at the armrest. He hadn't expected this. He certainly hadn't expected you. The moment you enter, all eyes shift. You walk slowly, chin high, each footfall deliberate. You're dressed in ceremonial white, trimmed with gold, hair coiled like the stories of old queens, eyes painted like the goddess Hathor herself. You didn't dress to impress. You dressed to remind. You are the Nile, and you are rising. I am Cleopatra, daughter of Ptolemy Olitz, you say, rightful co-ruler of Egypt. Your brother starts to speak. You don't let him. You exiled me with lies and fear. You ruled through whispers. Now I return with truth and Rome. That last word lands like a dropped sword. Caesar doesn't smile, but the room shifts toward him. His presence is a blade in a sheath, quiet but undeniable. Your brother sputters. She conspires with foreigners, with invaders. Caesar finally speaks. She conspires with legitimacy, which is a very Roman way of saying she brought receipts. Historiadors enda discutum, say, o povo di Alexandria realmente apuyu, a volta de Cleopatra, ou se foi o exercito de Caesar q determinu, o destino. Mas ha relatos de multidus, nas ruas, de gritos, por sua, reinha, de flores, lancadas, a sua, passagem, e, claro, desolancio, ensordeceder, no palacio. You're crowned that afternoon, not alone, your younger brother. Ptolemy XIV is named Corrigant for appearances. He's barely out of childhood. You give him a polite nod and a toy sphinx carved from ivory. The real power is yours. Still, you play the game. You smile during the ceremonies. You bless the people from the balcony. You toss coins into the crowd. One bounces off a fish vendor's nose and lands in a basket of figs. You see it. You laugh. No one else does. At night, you walk through your chambers, barefoot, touching things, like they're old friends. The tapestry of the flood goddess. The silver bowl your mother once used for rosewater. The window ledge where you used to sit and dream of ruling a land that constantly tried to escape your grasp. You made it, your home, but home is different now. It comes with Roman shadows. Caesar's presence lingers, even when he isn't in the room. His soldiers walk the halls like silent phantoms, watching everything and touching nothing. One evening, you find yourself on the palace roof again, a cup of honey wine in your hand, and your thoughts drifting like clouds. The sea is calm. The lighthouse blinks like a tired eye. Caesar joins you without a word. He doesn't ask permission. You don't offer it. Instead, you both watch the city breathe. You've built something here, he says after a while. You sip your wine. I intend to keep it. He nods. That will require more than charm and ceremony. I have plenty of both, you say, and more of what matters. He glances at you, and what's that? Memory. He doesn't reply. But you know he understands. A few weeks later, you learn you're pregnant. It's not shocking. It's just surreal. You're carrying a child who will be born of two worlds, Nile and Tiber. Papiro imor, voca pensa no, q isso significa. Nao apenas, para voca, mas para o igito, para o silivro, para os livros, q enda seroo escritos. You name him Ptolemy the 15th Philopator Philometer Caesar. But privately, you call him Caesareo, Little Caesar. He is born under quiet stars and a nervous moon. The midwives whisper prayers. You breathe through pain like a warrior queen, because that's exactly what you are. When he cries, you don't. You laugh, because the future just opened its eyes and screamed. You hold him against your chest and whisper in his ear, "You are Egypt." The palace celebrates, but you don't dance. You walk the halls with your newborn, letting him feel the stone beneath your feet, the breeze through open windows, the scent of lotus and dust and ancient dreams. You introduce him to the statues, the scrolls, the silence. You are raising more than a son. You are raising a dynasty. And if Rome doesn't like it, they can come and see you. But this time, they won't find a girl hiding behind curtains. They'll find a mother and a queen and a storm wrapped in gold. You are a mother now, which is strange, because the world hasn't slowed down to acknowledge it. The Nile still flows, the city still roars, and the palace still whispers. But you're different. Caesareo sleeps beside you, wrapped in linen and dreams, and you stare at him for hours. His tiny hands curl into fists that will one day grasp scepters, or scrolls, or swords. You hope for scrolls. You whisper lullabies from old stories, not the cheerful ones, the ones where queens outsmart armies, where rivers change direction, where gods take sides, and the mortals who dare to stand beside them. You don't tell him who his father is, not yet, not in words, but he will know, not because of coins or statues or titles, but because of how the world will treat him, with suspicion, with fascination, with expectation heavy enough to crush a pyramid. He will have to be more than just royal. He will have to be unforgettable, and you'll teach him how. By day, you return to the court. The throne isn't quite as comfortable as you imagined as a child. It's harder, heavier. The armrests feel like pressure points, reminding you that every decision you make leaves a mark on people, on policy, on history. Your advisors watch you. So do the Romans. You smile anyway. You rule anyway. Because ruling is not about being liked. It's about being necessary. And you've made yourself essential. You adjust grain prices. You reopen temples. You send gifts to smaller kingdoms along the Red Sea. Every move is a ripple, and every ripple is a whisper. Cleopatra Reina. Cleopatra Retorna. Cleopatra, Resiste. One afternoon, you walk through the palace gardens with Cesario in your arms. A fig tree drops fruit nearby with a soft thump. You watch a beetle crawl up the trunk, undisturbed. You sit on a stone bench, worn smooth by generations of queens who probably thought they were the last. You know better. Historians still debate whether Cleopatra truly envisioned her son as heir to both Rome and Egypt. You murmur aloud, as if Cesario can understand. But let's be honest, little lion, I'm not raising you to be second best. He burps. You take that as agreement. That night, there's a banquet. You wear gold, not just jewelry, but a statement. Your dress glimmers like sunrise over the Nile. The guests pretend not to stare, but they do. Especially when Caesar enters and sits beside you. It's a calculated display. The message is clear. Egypt is not alone. You talk about philosophy and taxes and wine production. He talks about roads and war and poetry he refuses to publish at one point. A senator makes a joke about how Rome tames all wild lands. Eventually, you laugh, not because it's funny, because your laugh is sharper than a reply. Later, as the banquet fades into music and perfume, Caesar leans toward you. Your son, he says. He has your eyes. You sip your drink. He has your ambition, you say. A beat. He nods. You wonder what he sees when he looks at you. Queen, partner, risk, legacy. But you don't ask, because you already know what you see when you look. At him, opportunity wrapped in old scars. The days pass, seasons shift. Alexandria thrives. You begin work on a new temple near the harbor, one dedicated to Isis, but with features that might look suspiciously like you if someone squints. The line between myth and monarch is a useful blur. You meet with scholars. You expand the library. You sponsor translations of Persian texts into Greek and commission new instruments for measuring the stars. One of the court philosophers insists the earth orbits the sun. Another insists it's the opposite. You tell them both to keep writing. It's good to have options. And still, every night, you return to your son. You tell him bedtime stories about your ancestors, about the gods, about a clever girl who hid in a linen sack and walked into power like slipping into a second skin some nights. You dream of him ruling beside you. Other nights, you dream of him never needing to rule at all. But in the waking hours, you prepare. Him for both. One morning, a letter arrives from Rome. It's brief. Caesar is returning, not just to Rome, but to rule it. He's accepted the title of dictator for life. You read the words twice, then fold the parchment and place it in a locked box. Because you know what power attracts and what it costs. You stand by the window and watch the tide roll. In the ships bob gently. The seagulls cry like children chasing one another. Your son crawls to your feet and tugs at your robe. You pick him up, hold him high, and whisper, "They'll call you a child of two empires, but you're more than that." You press your forehead to his. You're a promise I intend to keep. The Nile is quiet today, too quiet. You sit by the window, a scroll open in your lap, but you're not reading. Outside, the river glides past Alexandria like a memory refusing to fade. In the distance, a fisherman casts his net and prays. You wonder if his god is listening. Yours always seems to be watching instead. The mood in the palace has shifted. Caesar has left. back to Rome, back to politics, back to ambition dressed in togas and daggers. You walked him to the ship yourself, not as a queen, not as a lover, as something in between, a woman who knows too much about endings and not enough about what comes after. He kissed your hand, promised to write. You didn't ask him to stay, because you knew he wouldn't. The wind on the dock was heavy that day, full of salt and unsaid things. You held Cesario on your hip and watched the sails fade into the horizon. He reached for them once, tiny fingers curling toward the sea. You didn't cry, but the moment the ship vanished, the sky dimmed, as if even Ra, god of the sun, wasn't quite sure how to shine without Caesar in your orbit. Now, back in the palace, you resume your duties. Egypt still breathes, and you, as always, keep it steady. You meet with merchants, review crop reports, smile at diplomats who think they're clever. You commission a bronze statue of Isis with Cesario in her arms, displayed at the temple entrance. Subtle propaganda, divine mother, sacred son. Your advisors suggest marriage. You suggest silence. Some press harder. You press back, because you are not a prize. You are the game. Still whispers grow. Louder. Rome watches. It doesn't speak. Not directly, but its messages arrive anyway, in diplomatic phrasing, in rumors from the market, in new taxes levied on goods heading toward Italian ports, and one day in a sealed scroll that changes everything. You read it alone, then again, then you sit down, because your knees decide you can't stand for this. Julius Caesar is dead, assassinated in the Senate, stabbed by friends, a man who outlived wars, rebellions, and your brothers sulking, brought down by a semicircle of old men in togas and old grudges. Historiadores, onde discutem, se el realmente dis et tu, brute, ou, se isso foi, invenca de Shakespeare. OQ se sabe, OQ a noticia quo como amraio, para Roma, para voca, para o menino calm, oljos, Romanos, e sangue egipcio. You don't weep, but your hands shake. You order the palace into mourning. The curtains are drawn. The harpists play slower. You wear black for 7 days. On the 8th, you wear gold, because mourning is a privilege and survival is a duty. Your son is too young to understand. He asks where the man with the short sword went. You tell him he's gone where. Even the gods close their eyes. He seems satisfied with that, but you are not. Rome fractures in the power vacuum. Vultures circle. Mark Antony, Octavian, Cassius, Brutus, names like blades, all of them reaching for Caesar's shadow, each trying to claim it as their own. You send envoys. You gather information like figs in a basket, soft, sweet, and sometimes rotten. Mark Antony emerges louder than the rest. You remember him vaguely, boisterous, charming, more muscle than subtlety, but clever in his own messy way, and ambitious. Oh, always that. He's stationed in Tarsus now. You know what needs to be done, so you prepare. Not just gifts, not just scrolls, you prepare. You, the Cleopatra who will meet Antony, is not the girl who met Caesar. She's older, sharper, hungrier. You design your arrival like a performance, a golden barge, perfumed, sails, musicians, priests, and you, dressed as Aphrodite, reclining beneath a canopy while servants fan you with feathers and politics, because this is not just a visit. This is a resurrection. And your message to Rome is simple. I am not Caesar's shadow. I am my own son. Before you leave, you stand with Caesarea on the balcony. You lift him so he can see the sea. He laughs. You'll rule. This, you whisper. And more. You pause, then add, if I survive the next month. He sneezes, which feels like a good omen. You set sail at sunrise. The water glimmers, like it's heard your plans and approves. Your barge cuts through the Nile like a knife made of roses and smoke as Alexandria fades behind you. You think of everything you've built and everything you still intend to claim because you are Cleopatra, daughter of the Nile, mother of a king, and not even Rome can rewrite your story without your permission. Tarsus greets you like a gossiping aunt, loud, skeptical, and thoroughly unimpressed until she gets a proper look at your shoes. At first, the harbor is quiet. Roman soldiers loiter with half-interest, watching your golden barge glide across the Kidnus River like a divine illusion. But as your vessel draws closer, the air changes. Music swells. The scent of frankincense and cinnamon rolls across the water. Even the wind seems to hush. Then they see you. Not Cleopatra, the exiled princess. Not the mother of Caesar's child. No, they see Aphrodite, reborn, lounging under a silk canopy, trimmed in gold thread, her skin glowing, her eyes unreadable. You don't wave. You don't smile. You exist intensely, deliberately, and that's more than enough. The people gather along the docks. They whisper your name, half in fear, half in wonder. Even the Roman officers forget to pretend they're above local legends, and somewhere among them waits Mark Antony, historiadors, enda discutum, se elphoi, seducido, oxo sido, estao, usc, j istava, esperando, algo, titrol oq, se, sabi, urq, el now mandu soldados para escoltala, el foi pessoalmente, because Antony, for all his bravado, understands spectacle, and this is a masterpiece. When you finally disembark, the planks laid out beneath your feet are covered in rose petals. That wasn't your idea, but you allow it. You walk slowly, letting the silk of your gown whisper across the boards. Behind you, attendants carry gifts, spices, rare books, and a throne shaped like a lotus blossom. Sun-darkened, half-amused, and absolutely caught off guard. You weren't supposed to arrive. For another hour, he says. I wanted to catch the golden hour, you reply. He smirks. You always this dramatic, only when I'm being watched, which, let's be honest, is always. He leads you through the city to the palace set aside for visiting royalty. It's large, grand, Roman in structure, but trying very hard to be Eastern in taste, like a man wearing a tunic 2 sizes too bright inside. Wine is poured. You decline. I drink only after victories, you say. He raises a brow. And what do you consider this? An opening move. The game begins. Over the next few days, you talk endlessly, sometimes about politics, sometimes about wine, sometimes about the gods, and how ridiculous they are, and whether pretending to be one is ever truly a lie, if the people believe it hard enough. Antony is not Caesar. He's not cold calculation, masked in poetry. He's fire and laughter and fists slamming onto wooden tables. He's the kind of man who would fight a crocodile and then write a terrible song about it, but he listens more than you expected. He asks questions, real ones, and you You answer, but never too much, because this is still a negotiation. Rome is still fractured, and your survival still requires strategy. You attend feasts, you wear silver, this time cooler, quieter. Let him chase the warmth. You give a speech, in Greek, praising the gods of both nations. He doesn't understand half of it, but he claps like it's poetry. And when you laugh, it's not entirely performative, which is inconvenient, because you didn't come here to feel anything. You came here to win something. On the fourth night, he invites you to a private banquet. No senators, no scribes, just wine, figs, music, and words that don't need to be weighed before they're spoken. It's dangerous. You go anyway. The table is long, but you sit close. You talk about Alexandria, about your library, about how the moon looks different from your balcony. He talks about Rome, about his regrets, about the smell of blood on sand. At some point, the musicians stop playing. At another, you stop noticing. He leans in. You're not what I expected. He says, good. Do you ever rest? You pause, then say, only when I'm pretending to. He nods, like that makes perfect sense. And maybe, for the first time, someone gets it. That night, you return to your chamber, alone. But your thoughts, they stay tangled with his. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling, the scent of wine and myrrh still clinging to your skin. Outside, the wind sings through the cypress trees. The stars blink slowly, as if blinking back. You don't believe in fate, but you do believe in patterns. And Antony, chaotic as he is, fits too well into the puzzle you've been solving since childhood. Caesarea is safe in Alexandria. The Nile flows, and now the future curves in a new direction. One you didn't plan for, but one you might just choose anyway. The first time you and Antony are truly alone. Truly, there are no golden barges, no rose petals, no poets lingering with pens in case something quotable happens. Just two people in a quiet courtyard, watching a fig tree drop its offerings. To the ground, you're barefoot, not out of symbolism, but because you're tired of being beautiful in sandals that stab your heels. You sit on a bench, carved with hieroglyphs you half remember from your childhood, and he sits beside you like he's not used to asking permission. He tosses a fig in the air. You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. Figs don't lie. That makes no sense. You laugh anyway. He watches you like he wants to say something important, but ends up saying, your eyes are exhausting. You tilt your head. That's not usually the compliment I get. They make me feel like you're remembering things I haven't done yet. You don't know what to do with that, so you lean back and change the subject. It stays charged. The next few days are a dance, not of seduction, not exactly. It's more like mutual confession disguised as banter. He tells you about Roman politics like they're the plot of a bad comedy. You tell him about the Nile, about dreams where the river floods red, and you don't know if it's prophecy or metaphor. He doesn't laugh, which tells you he's paying attention. You ride together, once horses, not litters. He tries to race you. You win barely. He claims it's because your horse cheated. You claim it's because you know how to command loyalty, not buy it. That earns you a grin that might be the start of something you can't afford. Still, it grows slowly, but inevitably. Historiadors and a discutum say, O romance entre Cleopatra e Marco, Antenio foi genuino, uma alianca puramente est algons desum q ella o, seduzu, para prodigor, o igito, outros, desmql, se, apiaxo, por mito, mas, os, relatos, concordum, uma, coisa, els, iram, perigasamenti, parecidos. One night, you ask him directly, "What do you want from me?" He doesn't answer right away, just looks at you, really looks, then says, "I want a reason not to go back." You blink, he adds, to Rome, to the knives, to pretending that any of that still matters. You consider this, and then say, "Then stay. But don't pretend I'm your escape. I'm a throne with teeth." He laughs. "I've always liked dangerous furniture." Eventually, he returns to Rome. He has obligations, speeches to deliver, wars to half-start and abandon. You don't cry. When he leaves, you also don't sleep that night, but you do wake up the next morning more resolved than ever. You're not a woman waiting by the window. You're Cleopatra. You rebuild your alliances. You strengthen Alexandria's navy. You oversee new temple dedications, not just to gods, but to ideas, knowledge, motherhood, endurance. You make sure Caesario's name is etched into every marble surface that matters. And every letter from Antony, you read it twice, then burn it, not out of anger, out of ritual. If he's coming back, he'll come in person, and one day he does not. Just with words or whispers, with ships, with soldiers, with wine. Lots of wine. He enters Alexandria like a storm that's missed its cue, but arrives anyway, laughing and dangerous, with sand in his beard and desire in his eyes. You meet him on the docks. He says, "Did you miss me?" You say, "I've forgotten your name." He says, "Liar." You grin, because you are, and then it begins again, the love, or the performance of it. Hard to tell where one ends and the other begins, but it doesn't matter. It works. Banquets return, more lavish than before. You host them nightly, as if time itself needs to be reminded that you exist. The halls echo with music. Dancers move like myths retold in movement. Antony wears garlands like he was born for it. You wear emeralds that make even the statues blush. The people love it. Rome, not so much. The rumors start quickly. She's bewitched him. She's feeding him foreign delicacies made of magic and ambition. She's stealing his empire with her. Perfume. You don't deny it. You feed the gossip with a spoon made of honey and venom, because as long as they're talking about your love, they're not looking at your army. One morning, you and Antony declare yourselves the rulers of the new order. You divide eastern provinces like slices of date cake. You name Caesareo King of Kings. You see the courier's face pale as he delivers the news to Rome. Perfect, because now you've gone too far, and that's exactly where you wanted to be. Too grand to ignore, too powerful to dismiss, too unforgettable to erase. You lie in bed that night, head on Antony's chest, listening to the rhythm of a man who's chosen you over history's approval. He whispers, "We've made a mess." You whisper, "No, we've made a future." And in the dark, that sounds true enough. You are a goddess now. Officially, the people chant your name alongside Isis, Hathor, and the stars. You don't correct them. Why would you? The gods don't send memos. They send floods and queens and omens disguised as fruit falling at the right moment. You appear in public as divinity incarnate. Your dress is woven with gold thread. and your headdress holds a rising sun between curved horns. You glide through the streets of Alexandria on a litter carried by 12 men who no longer flinch beneath your weight. Antony walks beside you, wearing the loose smile of someone pretending to be in charge. Let him. You are the show, and the city, it's alive with it. Temples echo your name. Artists paint your face on walls that once held only gods. Children in the streets play pretend as Cleopatra and Caesarea, while their parents offer prayers for fertility and strong harvests. You've become more than queen. You've become myth, and the thing about myths, they're hard to kill still. You know this can't last forever. Rome doesn't like competition, and nothing is more threatening than a woman who builds an empire while wearing eyeliner sharper than most men's swords. You sit in council meetings with Caesarea on your lap. He doodles on papyrus while you negotiate trade routes. When diplomats grow restless, he waves at them. They wave back, because no one wants to be the first to upset a toddler king. Behind closed doors, the tension builds. Rome has split. Octavian controls the west, Antony the east. Lines have been drawn, and your palace is now a war map in marble. Historiadores. Anda discutum se, o casamento de Cleopatra e Marco Antonio, foi formalizado sob ritos egipcios, o use, jamais occuru officialmente, eq isophasia, o sangue romano, fervor deriva. Octavian calls you names in speeches: sorceress, whorequeen, foreign infection. You have those words embroidered on a pillow. It helps. You and Antony double down. You build new temples. You mint new coins. You celebrate the donations of Alexandria, giving kingdoms and titles to your children like party favors. Armenia, Syria. The Roman Senate calls it treason. You call it Tuesday. You host more feasts, each one more extravagant than the last. At one, you dissolve a pearl in vinegar and drink it. Antony nearly chokes. The room goes silent. A poet faints from the sheer drama. You smile. That's the most expensive eye roll I've ever performed. You whisper. Later, the legend grows. The pearl becomes the size of an olive. The vinegar turns into acid. You become immortal in the margins of someone else's scroll. And that's how you win. Not through swords, through stories. One afternoon, Caesarea asks, "Am I a god too?" You pause, then say, "You're my son." He considers this. Does that mean yes? You kiss his forehead. That means more than yes. At night, you and Antony lie in your bedchamber, surrounded by candles, silk, and silence. You talk about Rome like it's a mutual ex, unforgettable, insufferable, and always watching. He asks, "Do you think we'll win?" You turn to face him. "We already did." He laughs once, then stops. The silence after is heavier than before, because you both know what's coming. Octavian is building his fleet. He's speaking of purifying the Republic. You know what that means? Still, you host another banquet, because if the world is going to end, it should taste like honeyed figs and cinnamon wine. One of your advisors warns that your spending is excessive. You inform him that history remembers extravagance, not efficiency. He resigns. You do not send a gift. You begin preparing for war. Not with dread, but with choreography. Troop movement becomes dance. Naval deployment, a theater of sails. You sit in on every meeting. You read every scroll. You draft new banners and choose the battle colors yourself, deep indigo and gold, like bruises that shine dot. When your generals express doubt, you remind them, I am Cleopatra. My blood built pyramids. My breath outlasted Caesar. They nod because, what else can they do? And then, as the final act of defiance, you commission a statue of yourself, not in marble, but in obsidian, hard, dark, immortal. It shows you standing, not sitting, arms crossed, eyes forward, no crown, just confidence. Because if the gods won't make room for you, you'll become one anyway. You unveil it at the port, where it catches the sunset in its face, and the admiration of every woman who's ever been told she's too much. You stare at it for a long time, then whisper, remember me like this, because you know the tide is turning, and gods, they always disappear before the flood. The banquet that night is absurd by design. Gold goblets, silver harps, dancers dressed as constellations twirl under a ceiling painted like the night sky. You even have a mechanical fish swimming in a glass basin, because why not? You arrive late, intentionally. The room hushes when you enter, not because they weren't already half drunk on date, wine, and politics, but because you are the kind of presence that clears rooms and thoughts. With a single glance, Antony rises when he sees you. He looks tired, so do you. But tiredness worn by rulers is a kind of crown. He pours your wine himself. Everyone notices, no one comments. You sit beside him. He leans in. Did you see the fish? You nod solemnly. It looks deeply unimpressed with us. Smart fish. There is laughter. But under it, the weight of war presses against the walls like an unwanted guest who ate too much and won't leave. Still, you toast to the gods, to Egypt taught, to absurd hope, and the music plays louder than the unease. The guests eat roast lamb and figs. Someone tells a joke about Roman plumbing. A noble from Cyprus gets into an argument about star charts. You let it all happen, because this is what people will remember, not the battles, the before you. And Antony slip away before midnight. You walk through the gardens, barefoot. The stones are cold and smooth, like memory itself. He talks about building a villa after the war, something by the sea, something stupid and small. You don't tell him he won't. You lie on the grass beside the pool, watching your reflection shimmer between lotus flowers. I'm not afraid, he says. You turn to him. You should be. He nods, thoughtful. But I'm not, because I have you. You say nothing, not because you disagree, but because agreeing would make it harder inside. Your son sleeps, your generals whisper, and Octavian, he's sailing. The war is no longer theoretical. Ships are being stocked, speeches written, allies bribed. You are preparing to, of course, your navy is formidable, at least on paper, but paper burns fast, and Alexandria's beauty won't block arrows. Still, you don't slow down. You plan one more feast, a private one, no servants, no scribes, just you and Antony. And a table between you full of food neither of you touches. The wine flows, so do the memories. He tells you about his first battle scar. You tell him about your first library scroll. He laughs. Of course you were. A child in a library. And you were a child throwing rocks at Romans touche. You toast again, this time in silence. Historiadores ende discutum, se esse ultimo banquet realmente acontecu, ou se foi uma invenca poetica, diatos posteriors, mas a historia, ama senas, asem dois, amant brindando diante dufim, fingindo quo vigno pesames quo destino. When the candle burns down to its last flicker, he reaches across the table and takes your hand. If we lose, he says, will they remember us kindly? You smile. No. Then lean forward. But they'll remember us completely. Outside, the first scout reports in. Octavian's fleet is near, very near. You stand not like a queen, like a storm about to happen. The next day, the city prepares. Alexandrians line the streets, holding amulets and hope. Soldiers polish armor they will not wear well. Children ask questions their mothers don't answer. You pass them all. You go to the temple. You kneel before the statue of Isis, even though you are considered her incarnation, because even goddesses ask for mercy. Even goddesses doubt you whisper one word, tomorrow. No one replies, and that's fair, because prayers aren't guarantees. They're just letters we send to the unknown. You return to the palace, where Antony waits with maps and resolve. You look at him, he looks at you, and you both nod, because no matter how this ends, you have written your names in fire, and Rome will have to squint for the rest of history to read them clearly. You wake before dawn. The sky is still the color of iron, the kind of gray that makes promises. You rise without sound, stepping over chilled marble. Outside, Alexandria holds its breath. Today is a CTIUM.U. Dress yourself, no attendance, no ceremony, just linen and leather and quiet. Your armor isn't made of metal, it's made of memory. The weight of a crown never leaves the spine, even when it's invisible. Antony stands waiting in the war room, poring over maps already out of date. He's tired. The lines on his face are deeper. The wine from last night hasn't entirely left his blood. He doesn't look up. You walk in and stand beside him. I know what you're going to say, he mutters. Then let me say it first. He glances at you. I'm sorry. You raise an eyebrow. That's not what I was going to say. Then I'm in trouble. You always were. A smile, thin as a blade, flickers between you. Outside, the ships prepare. The Egyptian fleet, gleaming under the faint promise of morning, stretches across the bay like a nervous breath. The Roman ships, lean and sharp, prowl the horizon. Everyone is watching. Everyone is afraid, except the sea. The sea doesn't care. You stand on the flagship beside Antony. He commands with fire, you with silence. It's effective in different ways. He shouts orders. You watch the wind. HISTORIADORES. Enda discudum, say, Cleopatra realmente, participu da battaglia, de accio, no front ou, se permanesu, retaguarda, mas documentos egipcios antigos, algumas, tradicus, posteriors, affirmum q, ella estivla, noo como, espectadora, mas como estratagista. The battle begins not with trumpets, but with hesitation. Both sides circle, testing, prodding, and then, suddenly fire. The sea erupts, with arrows, shouts, cracking wood. The sails bloom and burn. Oars churn the water into chaos. You stand, still, watching, calculating, waiting for the pattern to emerge. It doesn't, because this isn't chess. It's a tavern brawl with better lighting. Antony moves too fast, too eager, too Roman and Octavian. He plays like someone with nothing to lose. Your ships begin to falter. The wind betrays you. Your sailors panic. You order a signal flare, a retreat pattern. It's misread as surrender. The fleet stutters. Some fall back. Others lunge forward. The formation collapses like a story with too many endings. You turn to Antony. His eyes are wide, red, unreadable. And then, before you can stop him, he leaps onto a smaller vessel, chasing what he thinks is redemption or rage. You shout, but he's already gone. The flagship lists in the waves. You give the order, retreat, not because you've lost hope, but because Caesarea waits in Alexandria, because your people need a ruler, not a martyr, because some defeats are only defeats. When you let them be final, you sail back in silence. The men avoid your gaze. Good, they should. The sea is calm again, mocking what you arrive in Alexandria under a dusk that feels wrong. No welcome, no music, just the sound of boots on stone and whispers in shadows. You step off the ship, not as a goddess, not even as a queen, but as something sharper. You go to your son. He runs to you. You kneel and hold him so tightly he complains about the pressure. You don't let go, not for a long time. Later that night, Antony returns, bloody, silent, ashamed. You meet him in the hall. He doesn't speak. Neither do you. He leans against the wall and slides to the floor, like a man trying to melt out of existence. You sit beside him, he says. Finally, I thought I could win. You respond, you did once. He nods, I'm sorry. You close your eyes, so are you that night. You both sleep, not well, but together, in a bed no longer fit for dreaming, because tomorrow there will be new whispers, and the day after that, there may be none at all. But for now, the candles burn low, the wine is untouched, and you, Cleopatra, daughter of the Nile, mother of kings, goddess in exile, you are still breathing, and for one more night, that's enough. The war has been written. The winds have carried the last screams out to sea. The sails are tattered, and Alexandria no longer sings. You stand in your private chamber alone, the marble floor cool beneath your feet, the linen gown brushing softly against your skin. Beyond the window, the Nile still flows, always, as if mocking everything that dares to rise and fall beside it. You take slow steps toward the altar you had built, not for worship, but for memory. Statues of Isis and Osiris watch with blank eyes, their silence more comforting than words. Caesarea is safe, hidden, for now, but Rome is coming. Octavian's ships are near. His letters, colder than any winter you've ever known, promise clemency that tastes like iron. You sit at your writing table and hold a brush, no ink, no words left to say. Your fingers trace a letter that will never be sent. To whom does it matter? Historiadores, enda debatum se Cleopatra escrivu, uma ultima carta a Ottaviano, antes de sua morte use tudo foiam tetrala, final. O.Q. sabamos, O.Q. 8o fim, ella escolhu. You walk to the balcony. Alexandria glows beneath the twilight like a dying star. You breathe in, and again, the perfume of night-blooming lotus fills the air, sweet and heavy. A tray waits behind you. Veil, basket, serpent, not a cobra, despite the stories. Too obvious, too dramatic, even for you. But the symbolism is too perfect to ignore. You smile, Of course they'll say, it was a snake. Let them make it poetry. You lie back on the couch of silk. The veil drapes over your face like sleep. And for a moment, just a moment, you are not queen or mother or goddess. You are a woman who has loved and lost and dared too much. And you are tired, so very tired. The bite comes swiftly, not pain, just warmth, as if the Nile itself is calling you back. You do not fight it, because death is not defeat, not for you. You become silence, but not absence, because they will whisper your name for millennia. Cleopatra, queen, mistress of the Nile, the woman who chose. Now the palace is quiet, the corridors sleep, wrapped in the hush of centuries. The torches have burned down, the silk curtains drift in the gentle night air, and the stars blink above the Nile like a lullaby in lights. You are safe now. No more war, no more thrones to protect, or alliances to juggle, or lovers to lose. Just stillness, the kind that lives deep beneath the surface of the river, where the water is cold and timeless. Imagine now the moon rising slowly over Alexandria. It kisses the tops of the palm trees. It brushes the rooftops, and it finds your window, where you once watched the world from a throne wrapped in gold. Now it watches over you. You are no longer made of decisions and danger. You are made of stories, of perfume and parchment, of myths and memory. Breathe slowly. Inhale the night air, cool, sweet, unburdened. Let go of the weight behind your eyes. Let your fingers uncurl. There is nothing left to hold, nothing left to fear. Only the calm, only the hush, only the peace that comes when the fight is over and the dream begins. Sleep now, dear queen. Sleep beneath the stars that once watched you reign. Sleep in the arms of the Nile. Sleep in legend.